everybody, welcome back to Mixing Music Analog and mixingmusicanalog.com, and here on my YouTube channel. And today we're going to take a look and a listen to a cool compressor by the company AUDIO-SCAPE. This is the Opto compressor, the LA2-A replica made by AUDIO-SCAPE. I want to talk to you a little bit about AUDIO-SCAPE, how I kind of hooked up with them, and then we're going to listen to the AUDIO-SCAPE, the Opto compressor, on some acoustic guitar, some bass, maybe some vocal, and in the context with the mix a little bit so you can hear how it sounds. But before we get to that, if you like what you see in this video, please consider subscribing and also hit the notification bell so you know when I'm posting new content for gear reviews and mixing demonstrations, so on and so forth. So let's talk a little bit about AUDIO-SCAPE. So AUDIO-SCAPE makes replicas of a lot of classic gear. They're a small little company out in Florida, and when I was setting up this new hybrid studio, one of the things that I wanted to have is I wanted to have a couple of different compressors. I knew I wanted to have an LA2-A compressor. I knew I wanted to have an 1176 compressor. I know I want to have a stay level compressor at one point and a few others, but I wanted some of the big three. And I was looking at some LA2As, and as you know, or maybe you don't know, if you're buying a new LA2A from a place like Sweetwater and such, you're going to pay somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,600 US. If you buy them on the used market, you might get them a couple of $100 cheaper, and if you buy a vintage one, you're going to pay even far more than that. And as I was starting to look for an LA2A on the used market and also on the new market, one of my students over at mixingmadeeasy.net, my mixing membership website, links will be in the description box below, told me that they picked up an LA2A compressor, the Opto compressor by the company AUDIO-SCAPE. And I had never heard AUDIO-SCAPE up to this point. So one of the things that I've always been concerned about, and I've talked about this before on my other YouTube channel, Home Recording Made Easy, we talk a lot about gear and especially companies that make replicas or knockoffs, for lack of a better word, of the classic gear. And there's lots of companies that do it. One of the things that always worried me was that a lot of these companies are able to put together this classic gear or replicas of the classic gear for a fraction of the price if you were to buy one new from the actual company. In this case, an LA2A is $3,500. There are several companies that make LA2A replicas for less than $1,000. And I've always been worried about that because I think if you're going to make a replica of a unit and you could do it for 1/3 the price, something typically in my head has to suffer. Either the component quality isn't the same as what's in the original, or the craftsmanship isn't as good as the original, or maybe sometimes a combination of both. And then obviously the sound doesn't sometimes sound as good as what the original is. Now, not in all cases, certainly, but that's what I had in my head. And so when my student told me about AUDIO-SCAPE, I said, well, let me check it out. He said he really, really loved it. He thought it was great. It was like less than $1,000 or right around $1,000 for a new unit. And he said, why don't you check it out? Now, I've compared and done some gear demos of some other LA2A-ish hardware by Warm Audio and a couple other companies, and I was never really thrilled with that. Their stuff, again, nothing bad against any of those companies. It just wasn't my cup of tea. And specifically, when I took a look at the Warm Audio LA2A, the build quality was okay. It wasn't great. So I have this thing in my head that you're not going to be able to buy something that sounds good like a real LA2A for 1/3 of the price. But my student said, check these guys out, see what they got to offer. And I said, okay, let me look before I spend $3,500. So anyway, I went to the website. They always seem to be out of stock on all their units. And I guess now that I've learned a little bit about the company, it's because they're a tiny little company. They spend an enormous amount of time sourcing really great components to make sure that they're making as close to an actual replica as possible. And therefore, because they're all built by hand, they build a few units, they sell out of stock right away. So I reached out to the owner of the company. His name is Chris, and his last name escapes me. Sorry, Chris. And I went back and forth with him on email a couple of times, and I was very frank with him. I said, Chris, you know, I don't know, a knockoff unit, I don't know if that's how I want to build my hybrid studio. Maybe I should save up for a new one. I don't know. And he was really, really cool about it. He was really, understanding. Says he hears those kinds of things all the time. He had said to me, hey, look, man, let me send you the Opto compressor. Check it out. If you don't like it, send it back to me. If you like it, you want to do a review for it, great. You can have the unit. Give us a chance. I think you'll find that we're not like some of the other larger companies that are a little bit more mass produced, especially overseas. So full disclosure, Chris and AUDIO-SCAPE was kind enough to send me this unit. It's been here in the rack. I did not pay for it. They gave it to me to do this review. However, I will say that they have not seen this video before it goes live. We have not talked 1 second about what I would say or wouldn't say in the review. They said, give me your honest opinion. If you really don't like it, send it back to me and we'll check it out. And I said, you know what, Chris, fair enough. And just the dialogue that I had back and forth with Chris at AUDIO-SCAPE, and now since then, I think one of his operating managers, I'm not sure if that's the right title, his name is Charlie, seems really cool, very nice, very generous in their emails, very easy to talk to, great communication. So I said, let me give these guys a try. And because they're a USA company, they're a tiny little company down in Florida, all built by hand, 1 unit at a time. I'd love to be able to support a company like that because I'm a small company as well, and if they do high quality work, I at least want to give them a chance. So that's what we have here, the AUDIO-SCAPE Opto compressor. I will tell you when I unboxed it, packed really well. You know, no way the thing would have been damaged in shipping. They did a really good job packaging. I will tell you, you know, I know it's can't tell over video, but the build quality and the feel of the switches and the way this thing is put together, it's got some heft to it. It feels a lot more rugged, if you will, a lot more higher quality feeling than the warm audio unit that I did compare it to. And I'm not saying anything about the warm audio unit because I actually tried it. It wasn't bad, sounded okay, but I can tell you that the build quality of this unit seems to be a little bit more, you know what I mean? That's a technical term. A little bit more rugged, a little bit more heavy duty. That's really cool. The other thing that they added in the box that I thought was cool is they add this little laminated kind of feature and spec sheet here, which is pretty cool. Show you that in the camera. Maybe you can see that. Maybe you can. Hopefully the camera will focus. Sorry about the glare. But nice little spec sheet telling you about the transformers and the things that they have in there, tell you about the connectors that they use, all the specifications, nice little cardboard laminate. That's a really nice touch, really cool. So, what does it sound like? I played with it a bit, and I got to tell you, sounds pretty good. Now, I don't have a real LA2-A in here, so I can't compare it side by side, but I'm not so concerned about that. I've used lots of LA2-A plugins by Universal Audio and all the companies out there. I have listened to real LA2-As in commercial studios. I am familiar with what they sound like, and the bottom line is, does it sound good or doesn't it sound good? It's built really well. The company seems like they're really cool. Let's listen to what it sounds like. So what I've done here is I've inserted our LA2-A or Opto compressor. I'm calling it the LA2-A, and it looks dead on to an LA2-A. It's really nice. The color of the faceplate, everything looks great. Inserted this right now on an acoustic guitar here, on a channel on the console here on the SSL, and I have it in as an insert. So what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to play back and solo this little acoustic guitar number. Will give us a little bit of compression, and I'll be able to pull it in and pull it out. You'll see me kind of do this kind of number. Okay, so you'll know when it's in and when it's out, and I might be able to even put a little dialogue, a little text on the screen. So right now it's not in the circuit. Let's go ahead and let's play back this little acoustic guitar section. Let's see what we have. So here's the raw acoustic guitar on its own, and there's no other processing on this acoustic at all. No other processing whatsoever. I like to do with a raw track. I think it might be EQ'd a little bit, little high pass filter, just so we can really hear what the compressor's doing, but there's no other plugins or any kind of hardware on this acoustic guitar. Here we go. Okay, that's the raw track that we're dealing with. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to insert it. You'll hear it pop in here. Here we go. I'm going to insert it now. So what I like about it right away, it's got that because it's a tube compressor, it's got that very nice smoothness to the top end. Take some of that little bit of harshness from the transient on a heavy acoustic guitar, strummed acoustic guitar, and it kind of softens that top end, which is really nice. And it kind of, you can feel it squeeze and open up a little bit, but it's not overly colored. It just kind of evens it out, which is kind of great. Let's start with it out again, and let's play that loop again. So again, it's we're doing probably, I don't know if you can see it on the video here, we're doing probably 8 to 10 dB of compression. And again, it really tightens it up nicely. Sounds really great. Sounds very LA2-A-esque from using plugins and such. It sounds good. What I like about this versus what I remember from plugins too, I feel like is a little bit more sense of depth. Whenever you run it through hardware, plugin seems a little bit more two-dimensional. This seems a little bit more three-dimensional, which is typical for hardware. So that's on an acoustic guitar. Why don't we go ahead and let's run a bass through the same channel, and let's try a bass and see what bass sounds like. Or, you know, before we get to that, let's do acoustic, and let's just bring our drum tracks back in so we can kind of hear it in context. Let's do that. So right now we have it in. So it pulls it right to the front. Sounds great. Really, I've always liked LA2As on acoustics, especially heavy strummed acoustics like that. I really enjoy that. Okay, now let's go ahead. I'll reroute the audio to this track here, and we'll take a listen to it on some bass. Here, let's see what we have. Okay, so let's check it on a bass. I got it in the circuit now. Let's listen to it on some bass guitars, see what we have going on here. So what's great about that is that you could hear it, the note, the sustain of the bass. When you bring that into the circuit, it really sustains it nicely, thickens it up, again, like an LA2A would. Pretty typical. Sounds really good. Let's put it in context with our drums here as well and see what that sounds like. Here we go. We got it in the circuit now. Got to unmute that first. Why don't we try that? That would be helpful, would it not? Here we go. Sounds fantastic. Really thick, nice and warm and fat. Bass, great. LA2-As are always great on bass. Acoustic guitar bass. The last thing I want to try, and I'll take it out of the circuit here, we're going to try it on vocals as well. We'll take a lead vocal track and just see what it kind of sounds like. Let me reroute this so we can do that. Okay, let's go over to... Here we go. Let's solo up a little bit of our lead vocal here and see what we have.
For someone, I'm reaching out for you.
Again, so keep in mind, again, there's no other compression, no EQ, no nothing. The EQ's out of the circuit. This is the raw audio track right here, okay? So let's back this up a little. Let's see what we have here if we dial in some compression on this lead vocal.
I'm reaching out for someone. I'm reaching out for you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm reaching out for someone. I am reaching out for you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm reaching out for someone. I'm reaching out for you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm reaching out for someone. I am reaching out for you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Love what it does to that last note, that real last note. When you put that in the circuit, it just, you could hear it sustain, it brings it up, it doesn't tail off. You can really hear it, it sounds great. Again, let's bring that in. Let's see if we can bring that in. We got it in the circuit now.
I'm reaching out for someone. I'm reaching out for you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm reaching out for someone. I am reaching out for you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm reaching.
Sounds really great. Sounds really, really great. I know there's only drums and a little bit of guitar there with the vocal, but I love what it does to that vocal. Again, it squeezes it, it thickens it up, it pulls it a little bit forward, but because it's an opto compressor and it doesn't have as fast of attack as something like a FET style compressor, you can over compress it. We were compressing nearly 15 dB there, and it just sounds really, really smooth. Sounds great. I'm actually really impressed with this. It sounds just like an LA2-A would or should, because it is a replica of it. I do love the fact that it's built really heavy duty. Like I said, I've tried a couple other brands in the past and kind of, you know, put my hands on the knobs and stuff. Not as durable as what this seems to be. Again, nothing against those other companies. I'm sure they make some great products. But you know, for me, I also like the story. I like the fact that they're a small little company out of the United States down in Florida. I love the fact that when I emailed, I got, you know, the owner of the company, Chris, got back to me within 24 hours. And we've had lots of dialogue back and forth over the last couple of months, because he actually sent this to me about a month and a half ago while we were in the middle of building this studio. So I didn't have time to actually test it and play with it until recently. So he's been very cool about that. They just seem like they're great people. And I love when a small little company like that builds really good, high quality products and they don't chintz out on stuff. And Chris is very passionate about the fact that he spends a lot of time making sure that he's just not buying cheesy components just to make a bunch of stuff. They're not a mass production house. They're a very small, one at a time. We don't build them unless we have the right components that he can get. And that's one of the reasons why whenever you go to their website, I don't think I've ever been on their website where they had anything in stock. Everything always seems to be out of stock. I guess once a week or so, they release the handful of units that they build, and they build some 1176s, and they build some Optos, and they build some stay levels, and they build some Pultec style EQs. They have like maybe a half a dozen or so products, and it looks like they're developing and coming out with more as well. So I like this a lot. I'm really anxious to put this in my rack and to use it on some full mixes, and you'll be hearing it in some mixing demonstrations as this channel continues to grow. But I'm really happy with AUDIO-SCAPE. I'd love to listen to what else they have. I might maybe reach out to them and see if I can purchase a stay level, which I would really like. They make a replica of the stay level. I would really like to have one of those compressors. I also would like to check out one of their 1176s just to compare that to things that I've had in the past. Plus, I have a Black Lion Audio Bluey. I'd love to compare their 1176 to the Bluey. That might be really cool as well. And maybe some of their other EQs. So I'm gonna see if I can work with them to do some demo units, do some demo reviews for them. I really like them, and I'm really happy with this. So now the next units, I'm really willing to pull out my wallet and to purchase. So I would tell you, check out AUDIO-SCAPE. Their link will be in the description box below. Check them out. If you have any questions, send them an email. Like I said, they were very friendly to me. And I think you'll really find that whenever you have a really small company with great service like that, and just their whole philosophy about the way they build gear, I kind of like that. And I feel a little bit more comfortable purchasing something from a company like that. If on a replica unit, then buying it from a company that's overseas that, you don't know what the warranties are like, you don't know what the longevity is, so on and so forth. These guys seem like they're pretty good. So Chris, thank you. And thank you to everybody at AUDIO-SCAPE for sending this over. I really do like it. And I'm gonna be really anxious to check out some of your other stuff because I have more hardware I need to get for the studio. And if I could put a couple of AUDIO-SCAPE pieces in the mix, I'd be glad to do it. So I hope you found this little first look at the AUDIO-SCAPE Opto Compressor helpful to you. Let me know below if you've ever used any of their products, or have you ever heard of them? What do you use as far as an LA2-A style kind of compressor? Do you have any other units that you use by different manufacturers? I'd love to know. Leave some comments below, and also let me know if there's other kind of gear demos you'd like to do of different brands, manufacturers and such, because I can work with people like the good folks at AUDIO-SCAPE as well as Sweetwater to bring in gear to demo it for you and check it out and see how this analog gear sounds in a hybrid setup. So until the next video, I've been Dave with MixingMusicAnalog.com and Mixing Music Analog, the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your time and for your support, and I'll speak to you guys soon. Take care, everybody.